Know your place, Omega. That's all you'll ever be. That's what pack leader Marcus told me every single day of my miserable existence. But I was about to learn that sometimes one mistake, one mortifying, earth-shattering mistake could shatter every boundary between the powerless and the untouchable. My name is Kai Winters. I'm 23 years old, and I just accidentally sent the most inappropriate text of my life to the three most dangerous alphas in the kingdoms. I stared at my phone screen, my hands trembling so violently I nearly dropped it on the cracked linoleum floor of my basement bedroom. The message had gone through. Sent, delivered, read. No, 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 no. My heart hammered against my rib cage like a caged animal desperate to escape. I'd meant to send that message to my best friend, Beck. A playful, outrageously inappropriate joke about what I'd do if I ever met someone who actually found me attractive during heat. It was supposed to be funny, private, harmless. Instead, I'd sent it to them, the triplet alpha kings of the northern kingdoms, Zephyr, Atlas, and Orion Silvermoon, the three men whose names alone made grown warriors weep. The kings who'd executed 5 pack leaders in the past year for treason, the alphas whose eyes, silver, gold, and ice blue respectively, had stared out from every news broadcast for the past decade. And I just sent them a text that read, "I'm in heat, and I need 3 alphas to pin me down and make me forget my own name. Think you can handle me? Or should I find someone who actually knows what they're doing?" My vision blurred. My stomach churned. I was going to be sick. I was going to die. They were going to have me arrested, executed, made an example of. And then my phone buzzed. I nearly screamed. With shaking fingers, I looked at the screen. Triplet Kings Silvermoon. Interesting proposition, Omega. You have exactly 1 hour to present yourself at the Silver Palace. All 3 of us will be waiting. Don't keep us waiting. My world tilted sideways. Let me back up. 3 hours earlier, I'd been exactly where I always was, on my hands and knees scrubbing the pack house kitchen floor. It was my 3rd shift of the day. First, I'd cleaned the alpha quarters at dawn, my fingers raw from harsh chemicals and cold water. Then I'd hauled 40 pounds of garbage bags from the communal dining hall, my shoulders screaming in protest. Now this, the kitchen floor that never seemed to get clean no matter how hard I scrubbed. My knees ached against the hard tile. I'd been at it for 2 hours, working my brush into every crack and crevice, making sure not a single spot of grime remained. Because if I missed even one spot, there would be consequences. There were always consequences. You missed a spot, Omega. Drake's voice cut through my concentration like a knife. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Drake Ironwood, pack leader Marcus's son. The golden child who'd been born with everything I would never have. Beauty that turned heads, status that commanded respect, power that made grown wolves bow, and the kind of casual cruelty that came from never being told no in his entire privileged life. Where? I asked quietly, keeping my eyes fixed on the floor the way I'd been trained. Never look an alpha in the eye unless given permission. Never speak unless spoken to. Never, ever forget your place. A designer boot probably worth more than I'd earn in a year if I actually got paid slammed down inches from my hand, splashing dirty mop water across my face and uniform. The cold, grimy liquid soaked through my shirt, making me flinch. "There," Drake said sweetly, like he was doing me a favor. Oh, and there. Another kick sent more water spraying, and oops, there too. He kicked over the entire bucket, and I watched in horror as gallons of dirty water flooded across the floor I'd just spent 2 hours cleaning. The gray, chemical-laden water spread across the white tile like a stain, erasing all my work in seconds. "Clumsy me," Drake said, not sounding sorry at all. "You better get that cleaned up before Father sees it. You know how he feels about slovenly Omegas." His laughter echoed down the hallway as he walked away, probably off to meet his friends or his fiancée or whatever it was that important alphas did with their time. I wouldn't know. I'd never had time for friends or relationships or anything that made life worth living. I stayed on my knees, staring at the ruined floor, and felt something inside me crack just a little bit more. How much more could I break before there was nothing left? I was 23 years old. 23. Most wolves my age were finishing college, starting careers, finding mates, building lives. I was on my knees scrubbing floors for the pack that had taken everything from me. I'd been a slave because that's what Omegas were in the Ironwood Pack, no matter what pretty words they used since I was 16. 7 years of this. 7 years of, yes, Alpha, and sorry, Alpha, and I'll clean that up, Alpha, and thank you for allowing me to serve, Alpha. 7 years of watching my reflection in mirrors fade until I barely recognized myself anymore. My parents were dead. Killed in a rogue attack when I was 15, leaving me alone and vulnerable in a pack that saw Omegas as property rather than people. Pack leader Marcus had graciously allowed me to stay, but only if I worked to earn my keep, which meant I worked 18-hour days for no pay. I lived in a basement with 2 other Omegas, sleeping on a thin mattress that smelled like mildew, sharing one bathroom and a hot plate that barely worked. I ate whatever scraps were left after everyone else had eaten: cold soup, stale bread, the vegetables too wilted for alpha consumption. And every day, I swallowed industrial-strength suppressants that cost half my non-existent wages, because an Omega in heat was either bonded immediately to whoever the pack leader chose, or thrown out as a rogue. Neither option was acceptable. That evening, I collapsed onto my thin mattress in the basement, every muscle in my body screaming in protest. My back felt like it had been beaten with a stick. My knees were bruised and swollen from hours on hard floors. My hands were so raw from chemicals that they bled when I tried to make a fist. Beck, my only friend in this hellhole, was already in bed on the mattress next to mine. He was scrolling through his phone, a battered old model he'd salvaged from the pack house trash 3 years ago. The screen was cracked, but it worked well enough to give us a glimpse of the world beyond these basement walls. "Rough day?" he asked without looking up. Beck had been in the pack longer than me, 27 years old, and he'd been serving since he was 18. 9 years of this life had carved lines into his face that shouldn't be there for someone so young. "They're all rough days," I muttered, trying to find a position that didn't make my muscles scream. "Fair point." He finally glanced over, his dark eyes sympathetic. I saw my own exhaustion reflected there. Drake again? Kicked over my bucket, 3 hours of work gone in 3 seconds. That bastard. Beck sat up, setting his phone aside. "You know what you need? A distraction. Something fun. Something that reminds you that you're a person, not a packmate." I snorted, the sound bitter even to my own ears. "Like what? We can't leave pack territory without written permission from the pack leader, which we'll never get. We can't go to the entertainment district in town because we're not respectable enough to be seen in public. And we definitely can't afford anything that costs money since we don't get paid for our labor. So we use our imaginations," Beck said, and that mischievous grin I'd come to recognize spread across his face. It was the same grin he got when he was about to suggest something ridiculous. "Come on. If you could have anyone, and I mean anyone in the entire shifter world, who would it be? What would you do with them?" I rolled my eyes, too tired for this game. "This is ridiculous, Beck. Humor me. You need to laugh or you're going to murder Drake in his sleep, and while I'd testify on your behalf at the trial, I'd really prefer not to lose my best friend to a life sentence." Tempting as that sounds, I trailed off, actually considering the question for the first time. Maybe it was the exhaustion making me loopy. Maybe it was the desperate need to feel something other than worthless. Maybe it was the fact that my heat was coming. I could feel it building despite the industrial strength suppressants I choked down every morning, the telltale warmth in my belly, the increased sensitivity of my skin, the way certain scents were starting to affect me more than they should. I needed to up my dosage. Again. The suppressants were getting less effective every cycle, and I didn't know what I'd do when they stopped working entirely. But right now, in this moment, I let myself imagine, for once, just for once. "Fine," I said, surprising myself. "If I could have anyone, I'd want someone powerful. Someone who'd make everyone who ever looked down at me regret it. Someone who'd make me feel like I actually matter." "Ooh, I like where this is going," Beck encouraged, sitting up straighter. "Keep talking. Details, Kai. Give me details." A rare smile tugged at my lips. When was the last time I'd smiled? Weeks? Months? I'd want them to be so overwhelming that I'd forget my own name for a while. Forget everything, the pack, the basement, the endless cleaning. I'd want them to. I paused, suddenly embarrassed by where my mind was going. "Say it," Beck pressed, grinning wider now. "I'd want them to pin me down and make me feel like the only Omega in the world," I finished quietly. heat creeping up my neck. I'd want someone who looks at me and actually sees me, you know? Not just an Omega, not just someone to use and discard, but me, Kai, the person I used to be before all this. Beck clutched his chest dramatically, falling back onto his mattress. That's beautiful and scorching hot at the same time. You should write that down. Preserve it for posterity. What? No, absolutely not. Come on, send it to me as a text. I'll send you mine. We'll make it a game. Messages to the fantasy alpha we'll never have. It'll be therapeutic. Cathartic, even. I laughed, despite myself, and gods, it felt good to laugh. When had I last done that? You're insane, Beck. Certifiably insane. And you love me for it? He shot back with a wink. Come on, one message. Make it spicy. Make it everything you wish you could say but never would. No one will ever see it but me. But I picked up my phone and started typing. I'm in heat, and I need 3 alphas to pin me down and make me forget my own name. Think you can handle me? Or should I find someone who actually knows what they're doing? I showed it to Beck, who cackled with delight. Perfect. Send it. I scrolled through my contacts to find Beck's name. I hit send. And that's when my entire world shattered. Because I'd accidentally selected the contact directly above Beck's name. A contact I'd saved months ago when the Triplet Kings had sent a mass message to all pack members about new territory laws. Triplet Kings Silvermoon. I couldn't breathe. The phone felt like a bomb in my hands. Kai. Beck's voice sounded distant. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't speak. I could only stare at the screen, at the 3 little dots that appeared under the king's name, indicating they were typing. Kai, you're scaring me. What happened? I sent it to the wrong person, I whispered. What? Who cares? It's just I sent it to the kings. The color drained from Beck's face. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? I sent that message to the Triplet Alpha Kings, the ruthless rulers of the northern kingdoms. I just propositioned them like they're some random guys on a dating app. My phone buzzed. Both of us screamed. With trembling fingers, I opened the message. Triplet Kings Silvermoon. Interesting proposition, Omega. You have exactly 1 hour to present yourself at the Silver Palace. All 3 of us will be waiting. Don't keep us waiting. The phone slipped from my fingers. What does it say? Beck whispered. They want me to go to the palace. Now. Beck's eyes widened. You can't go. If I don't go, they'll come here. They'll drag me out in chains. At least if I go willingly, maybe they'll just kill me quickly and leave everyone else alone. Don't talk like that. I have to go. I have to face this. Then I'm coming with you. No, you stay here. If this goes badly, when this goes badly, I need you to tell my story. Tears streamed down Beck's face. Kai, promise me. I promise. I looked down at myself. I was wearing my cleaning uniform, shapeless gray clothes stained with chemicals. My black hair was a tangled mess. I smelled like floor cleaner. But something in me, some tiny defiant spark that hadn't quite been extinguished by 7 years of abuse, made me pause. If I was going to die, I'd die with whatever dignity I could scrape together. I stripped off the uniform and pulled on the only decent clothes I owned, dark jeans and a clean black shirt I'd found in a donation bin. I brushed my hair until it fell in dark waves around my face. When I looked in the cracked mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked almost attractive. Too bad attractive doesn't matter when you're about to be executed for insulting 3 kings. I made it to the basement stairs before I heard Pack Leader Marcus's voice. And where do you think you're going, Omega? Behind him, Drake smirked. I have an errand, I stammered. An errand? At this hour? In clean clothes? How fascinating. Drake circled me like a predator. He's all dressed up. Maybe he has a secret boyfriend. I need to go. Please, it's important. Nothing an Omega does is important, Marcus said flatly. Get back in your uniform. 39 minutes. I can't. I have to leave now. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You're refusing a direct order from your pack leader? Seize him, he commanded. Strong hands grabbed my arms. Take him to the discipline room. No, I struggled. You don't understand. The kings, they summoned me. If I don't go, they'll. Drake's laughter cut through my protests. The kings? You expect us to believe the Triplet Alpha Kings summoned you? Please, check my phone. They sent me a message. Marcus snatched the phone from my pocket. He scrolled through the messages, his expression shifting from disdain to confusion to something that might have been fear. The phone slipped from his fingers. What is it, Father? Drake asked. He's telling the truth. Drake grabbed the phone, reading the messages. His face twisted with ugly jealousy. This is impossible. Why would the kings summon him? I'm wasting time, I said, wrenching myself free. I have 35 minutes to reach the palace, or the kings will assume I'm defying them. And when they come looking for answers, what will you tell them? That you prevented me from answering their summons? The color drained from Marcus's face. Let him go, now. I didn't wait for them to change their minds. I bolted through the pack house and out into the cold night air. A sleek black car was waiting at the pack territory border. A driver in royal livery stood beside it. Mr. Winters? I skidded to a stop, gasping. Yes? Their Majesties anticipated you might have difficulties leaving. I'm here to escort you to the palace. We have 32 minutes. That's more than enough time. I climbed into the car on shaking legs. The interior was pure luxury. Leather seats, soft lighting, the faint scent of expensive cologne. 3 different scents, actually. Cedar and storm. Sandalwood and fire. Mint and ice. The Triplet King's scents. As the car pulled away, I stared out the window and tried to prepare myself for whatever awaited me. Death, probably. But maybe, just maybe, something else entirely. The Silver Palace was even more intimidating up close. It rose above the city like a crown of glass and steel and ancient stone. Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The car pulled through gates guarded by warriors who looked like they could snap me in half. A woman appeared from the shadows, tall, elegant, with silver hair swept into an immaculate bun. I am Helena, the king's senior advisor. You are Kai Winters of Ironwood Pack? Yes, ma'am. Her eyes swept over me. You're late by 43 seconds. Their Majesties are displeased. My stomach dropped. I came as fast as I could. Save your explanations for the kings. Follow me. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not touch anything. Do not look directly at their Majesties unless they command it. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. We entered through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate. Everything was sharp angles and cold perfection. My heart hammered with every step. This felt like walking toward an execution. We stopped before massive double doors made of dark wood, inlaid with silver and crystal. Helena knocked 3 times. Enter. 3 voices spoke in unison. Deep, commanding, sending shivers down my spine. This is it. This is where I die. Helena pushed open the doors. Their Majesties will see you now. I forced my legs to move. The doors closed behind me with a soft, final click. The office was enormous. High ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, shelves lined with books and technology, a fireplace crackling on one wall, and behind a massive desk sat 3 men who ruled the entire northern kingdoms with iron fists. My breath caught. The photographs didn't do them justice, didn't capture the raw, overwhelming presence of them. They were identical in build, all tall, all broad-shouldered, all radiating power, but their coloring was different, and their auras were distinctly unique. Zephyr, the eldest, had white blonde hair and eyes like molten silver. He sat in the center, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Atlas, the middle triplet, had dark auburn hair and eyes like liquid gold. He leaned back in his chair to Zephyr's right, studying me with predatory focus. Orion, the youngest, had black hair and eyes like glacial ice blue. He sat to Zephyr's left, expression unreadable. They were terrifying. They were magnificent. And all 3 of them were staring at me like they wanted to devour me. You're smaller than we expected, Zephyr said finally. Of all the things I'd anticipated them saying, that wasn't one of them. What? Smaller? From your text message, Atlas added, his golden eyes tracking my every movement. We expected someone taller, more confident, someone who could actually back up such bold words. Heat flooded my cheeks. Your Majesties, I need to apologize. That message was a terrible mistake. It was supposed to go to my friend, and I accidentally. Stop. Orion's voice was quiet but commanded instant obedience. Stop apologizing. It's tedious. My mouth snapped shut. Zephyr stood, and I was right. He was easily over 6 feet tall, moving with the fluid grace of a predator. He circled around the desk, and I had to fight the urge to back away. Atlas and Orion stood as well, flanking their brother. 3 alphas, 3 kings, all focused entirely on me. They stopped a few feet from me, close enough that I could smell their scents properly now. The combination was intoxicating. Made my Omega instinct stir for the first time in years, even through my heavy-duty suppressants. No, absolutely not. Do not react to them. Look at us, Zephyr commanded. My eyes snapped up to meet his silver gaze. You're terrified, he observed. Yes, Your Majesty. Of us? Of what we'll do to you for your disrespect? Yes. And what do you think we'll do to you? Atlas asked. Execute me. Make an example of me. Show the kingdoms what happens to Omegas who forget their place. Orion tilted his head. Is that what you've been taught? That we execute people for minor offenses? You execute pack leaders for disloyalty. Pack leaders who committed treason, Zephyr corrected. That's slightly different from an Omega sending an accidental text message, don't you think? I didn't know what to think. This wasn't going at all like I'd expected. Atlas moved closer. Now, I could feel the heat radiating from all 3 of them, the sheer power that rolled off them in waves. Tell us, Kai Winters of Ironwood Pack, Atlas said, his voice dropping lower. If that text message hadn't been an accident, if you really did want to proposition us, what would you be hoping for? My throat went dry. I don't understand the question, Your Majesty. It's a simple question, Orion said. What does an Omega who's been beaten down his entire life hope to find when he fantasizes about powerful alphas? The question was too perceptive, too close to truths I'd never admitted even to myself. I wasn't fantasizing about you specifically. We know, Zephyr said, but you were fantasizing about someone, power, protection, someone who would make you feel valued, someone who would make you forget your own name. Because for once you'd be so consumed by pleasure that your pain wouldn't matter. How did they know that? How could they possibly? We've studied pack dynamics our entire lives, Atlas said. We know exactly how Omegas are treated in packs like Ironwood. We know about the abuse, the degradation, the systematic breaking down of spirits until you believe you're worthless. Then why don't you stop it? The words burst out before I could stop them. Idiot, you just challenged 3 kings. But they didn't look angry. If anything, they looked interested. Because changing centuries of pack culture requires more than just royal decrees, Zephyr said slowly. It requires shifting the fundamental beliefs of every alpha, beta, and omega in the kingdoms. That kind of change takes time, strategy, and leverage. He paused, exchanging glances with his brothers. But perhaps you're about to help us with that. I blinked. What? We didn't summon you here to punish you, Kai, Zephyr said. He returned to the desk, pressed a button, and the windows tinted to privacy mode. We summoned you here because your accidental text message gave us an idea. He gestured to a chair. Sit. I sat, my mind reeling. All 3 kings arranged themselves around me, Zephyr leaning against the desk directly in front of me, Atlas sitting on the arm of a nearby chair to my right, Orion settling into another chair to my left, surrounding me. We need a mate, Zephyr said. My brain short-circuited. I'm sorry, what? A mate, a consort, someone to stand beside us and help reshape the kingdom's attitude toward Omega rights. And you, Kai Winters of Ironwood Pack, just became a very interesting candidate. The room spun. This wasn't execution. This was something infinitely more dangerous. I was certain I'd misheard them. Your Majesties, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. I'm an Omega, a nobody Omega, from a pack that treats me like garbage. You're the Triplet Alpha Kings. You can't possibly be suggesting. We're not suggesting anything, Zephyr interrupted. We're proposing a mutually beneficial arrangement. He poured 4 glasses of amber liquid and offered one to me. Drink. You look like you're about to pass out. I took the glass with trembling hands and downed it in one gulp. The liquor burned, but it cleared some of the fog. You want me to be your mate? Your consort? Potentially, yes, Atlas said. Why? Because you're perfect, Orion replied calmly. I laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound. I'm the furthest thing from perfect. Because you're precisely what we need to make our point, Zephyr said. For the past 3 years, we've been trying to pass legislation that would protect Omegas from abuse. Every single proposal has been blocked by the Alpha Council. They claim Omegas are too fragile, that giving them rights would upset the natural order. His voice hardened. But they can't bury a royal bonding ceremony. And if that mate is an Omega who rises from nothing to stand as consort, then their entire argument collapses. Understanding dawned slowly. You want to use me as a symbol. We want to use us as a statement, Zephyr corrected. You become our mate, our consort. We show the kingdoms that Omegas deserve respect. And in return, you get everything you've ever dreamed of. Power, protection, a life where no one can ever treat you as less than again. It was brilliant. It was insane. It was tempting. What's the catch? The catch is that this would be a contract, not a love match. Zephyr said, we would present as a devoted, bonded group in public, but in private we maintain professional boundaries. The bond would be political, not personal. Something in my chest twisted painfully. So no actual mating bond, no marks, no consummation. Correct, Orion said. We need a partner who can help us change the kingdoms, not someone who will become emotionally dependent and complicate matters. That's very romantic. We're not interested in romance, Atlas said. We're interested in revolution. The contract would last 5 years, Zephyr explained. After that, we could quietly dissolve the bond. You'd be set for life wealth, status, protection. 5 years of pretending, 5 years of having everything except the one thing I'd truly craved. Someone who actually cared about me. And if I say no, then you return to Ironwood Pack, and we all forget this conversation ever happened. We won't punish you for the text message. But Kai, Atlas added, his voice softer, when will you ever get another chance to escape that basement? To matter? The words hit like a physical blow because they were true. I closed my eyes. I thought of Drake's cruel laughter, of 7 years of bruised knees and bleeding hands, of a life that stretched ahead with nothing but more of the same. I thought of Beck, who deserved better. I thought of all the other Omegas suffering with no one to fight for them. I opened my eyes and met Zephyr's gaze. I have conditions. We're listening. First, I want Beck brought here to the palace. He gets a real job, real pay, and protection. Done, Atlas said immediately. Second, I want to actually help with the legislation. I don't want to be just a pretty symbol. Agreed, Orion said. Third, if any of us meets our true mate during these 5 years, we dissolve the contract immediately. I won't trap you, and you won't trap me. Something flickered in all 3 sets of eyes. Surprise, respect. That's remarkably fair-minded, Zephyr said slowly. I've been trapped my whole life. I won't do that to someone else, even in a fake arrangement. Zephyr stood and extended his hand. Then we have an agreement. I stared at the outstretched hand. This was it, the moment that would change everything. I reached out and clasped Zephyr's hand. His grip was strong, warm, sending electricity up my arm. Atlas and Orion stood as well, each placing a hand on my shoulder. I accept your offer, your majesties. Then we suppose we should discuss bonding plans, Orion said. And Kai, call us by our names. We're betrothed now. Might as well start practicing intimacy. The way all 3 of them said the word intimacy made heat flood through my body. This was going to be a very complicated 5 years. Within an hour, Helena had whisked me away to a private wing of the palace, a suite of rooms so luxurious I was afraid to touch anything. Crystal chandeliers, silk curtains, a bed that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. This will be your quarters until the bonding ceremony, Helena explained. After the ceremony, you'll move into the royal consort's wing, adjacent to their majesties' rooms, for appearances. I should have felt relieved, safe. Instead, I felt terrified. That night, I texted Beck everything. The proposal, the contract, the 5-year plan, everything, except the part about it being fake. Beck, this is the most insane thing I've ever heard. I'm so proud of you, also terrified for you. but mostly proud. You're gonna be a royal consort. Kai, a fake royal consort. But yes, Beck, doesn't matter. You're getting out, we're both getting out. Then another message appeared. Zephyr, are you settling in? My heart stuttered. The king was texting me casually. Kai, yes, thank you. The rooms are beautiful. Zephyr, good. Sleep well. Tomorrow begins your training. Atlas, 99. A consort needs to be able to defend himself. We won't have you be helpless. Orion, also joining. Plus it builds confidence. You'll need that for the Alpha Council. Something warm unfurled in my chest. They wanted me to be strong. Kai, I'll do my best. Zephyr, we know you will. That's why we chose you. Good night, Kai. I fell asleep within minutes. For the first time in years, I felt safe. The next morning, Helena woke me at dawn. We have 9 hours before the press conference, and you look like a disaster. What followed was the most exhausting 9 hours of my life. Wardrobe fittings, hair and makeup. Etiquette lessons where I learned to walk like a consort instead of a servant. Chin up, shoulders back, Helena barked. You're a royal consort now, not a servant. Stop apologizing with your body language. By the 5th attempt, something clicked. I stopped thinking about not falling and started thinking about where I was going. Then came media training. Never say no comment, the advisor instructed. Redirect instead. No script, 3 voices cut through the room. I turned to see all 3 kings in the doorway, dressed in formal black. Your Majesties, the advisor stammered. I was just, we know what you were doing, Atlas said, and we're telling you no script. He speaks from the heart, or this doesn't work. Zephyr stopped in front of me. How are you holding up? I'm terrified, and my feet hurt, and I'm not sure I can do this. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good. If you weren't terrified, we'd be worried. But you can do this, because you've survived 7 years of abuse that would have broken most people. You're stronger than you think. Something in their words steadied me. They believed in me. Okay, let's do this. All 3 smiled. There he is. There's our consort. 2 hours later, I stood backstage at the palace press room, my heart trying to beat out of my chest. Through a gap in the curtain, I could see dozens of reporters, cameras ready. Beck had arrived and was in the audience, his eyes wide with shock and pride. Ready? Zephyr appeared beside me. No. Perfect. Neither are we. Atlas offered his arm. Orion offered his other arm. Zephyr stood behind us, protective. We stepped into the lights together. The room erupted. Camera flashes exploded, questions overlapped. My instinct was to shrink back. But Atlas's hand covered mine on his arm, a silent reminder. Consorts don't make themselves smaller. I lifted my chin and walked beside them to the podium. Zephyr spoke first. Thank you all for coming. We have an announcement that will reshape the future of the Northern Kingdoms. Today we announce our bonding to Kai Winters of Ironwood Pack. Chaos erupted. Your Majesties, he's an Omega. Is this a political statement? Zephyr raised one hand and the room fell silent. We will take questions in a moment, but first, we want to be absolutely clear. Kai is not a statement. He is our chosen mate, and he will be your royal consort. Anyone who questions his worth based on his designation will answer to us personally. A reporter stood. Your Majesties, how did you meet Mr. Winters? Zephyr glanced at me, giving me the floor. This was it. My first test. I stepped closer to the microphone. We met through an unexpected conversation, a message that was meant for someone else but ended up changing all our lives. It was the truth, just not all of it. What makes you qualified to be royal consort? A reporter challenged. I took a breath. Neither did Queen Liana when she became consort 300 years ago. She was a healer's son. Yet she's remembered as one of the most effective consorts in our history because she understood the common wolves. Several reporters nodded, impressed. Are you saying Omegas are as capable as Alphas? I'm saying capability has nothing to do with designation and everything to do with character. The Omega, who keeps a pack house running, who manages resources, he's demonstrating leadership every single day. We've just never called it that. Orion's hand found the small of my back. The touch sent heat through me. One more question, Zephyr announced. A young reporter stood. Mr. Winters, are you afraid? The position you're stepping into has historically been dangerous. I thought of my basement bedroom, of 7 years of being treated as nothing. Yes, I'm terrified. But I've been afraid every single day of my life. At least now, my fear serves a purpose. If my fear and my courage can help change things for other Omegas who feel powerless, then it's worth it. The room erupted again, but this time the energy was different. Some reporters were nodding, others typing furiously. The moment we were backstage, my knees buckled. Zephyr caught me. Breathe. You did perfectly. I thought I was going to throw up. We know, but you didn't. You stood there and made them listen. Before we could leave, Helena appeared with Beck. Kai, Beck crashed into me with a hug. You were amazing. Then he realized he was standing in front of the Triplet Alpha Kings and froze. Any friend of Kai's is welcome here, Atlas said, amused. Helena will show you to your quarters. You start work tomorrow as Kai's personal assistant. As Beck was led away, still looking dazed, Zephyr turned to me. We need to talk privately. He led me to a small study. The moment the door closed, his demeanor shifted. We have a problem. The Alpha Council called an emergency session. They're demanding an audience with you tomorrow. My stomach dropped. Why? To test you. To try to prove you're unfit, Atlas said. They're going to do everything in their power to break you, Orion added. And one of the council members is Alpha Marcus Ironwood, Zephyr said. Your former pack leader. The blood drained from my face. We can cancel the meeting, Zephyr offered. No. If I run from this, they'll know I'm weak. You said you chose me because I'm strong enough for this, so let me prove it. Something flickered in all 3 sets of eyes. Respect. Then, we prepare. We have until tomorrow morning to turn you into someone they can't break. The training room was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Weapons lined the walls. Training mats covered the floor. All 3 kings had changed into training clothes that revealed exactly how muscular they were. I tried not to stare. I failed. First lesson, Zephyr said, tossing me a staff. Defense. I thought you were teaching me political strategy. Politics is war without the blood, usually. But the Alpha Council respects strength, so we're going to make sure you can project it. Attack me. When I hesitated, his voice sharpened. That's an order, Kai. Something about the command sparked anger. All the rage I'd swallowed for 7 years suddenly had an outlet. I swung the staff. Zephyr blocked it effortlessly. Predictable, again. We trained for 2 hours. By the end, I was drenched in sweat, but I'd landed 6 hits total. Better. You're a natural fighter. Tomorrow, when Marcus tries to intimidate you, remember this feeling. For the next 3 hours, they drilled me on verbal combat, how to turn every attack into a strength. Then we walked through the palace gardens under starlight. Can I ask you something? I said finally. You just did. But yes, you can ask another thing. Why are you really doing this? It's more than just political strategy. There's something personal driving you. They were quiet for so long I thought they wouldn't answer. Our mother was an Omega, Zephyr said finally. I stopped walking. What? It's not common knowledge. Our father kept it quiet. She was brilliant, kind, stronger than anyone gave her credit for. But the pack system broke her. She died when we were 12. Atlas stared at the stars. Officially from illness, but we know the truth. She died from being crushed under the weight of a system that told her she was worthless every single day. We made a promise to her before she died, Orion said, that we'd change things, that no Omega would ever have to feel the way she felt. Zephyr looked at me. That's why we chose you. Not just because you're useful, though you are, but because you remind us of her, that same strength hiding beneath layers of trauma. Tears pricked my eyes. She'd be proud of you. We hope so. Orion reached out, catching a tear with his thumb. Get some rest, Kai. Tomorrow we show the Alpha Council exactly what Omegas are capable of. The next morning, I dressed in a sharply tailored suit. Beck helped with the final touches. You look like you could conquer kingdoms. I'd settle for surviving the next few hours. Helena arrived. The Alpha Council is assembled. All three kings were waiting in the hallway, dressed in full royal regalia, crowns gleaming. Ready? No, but I'm going anyway. They smiled. That's our consort. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. A massive circular room with 12 high-backed chairs arranged in a semicircle. At the center was a single chair. Smaller, lower, deliberately positioned to make whoever sat in it feel insignificant. That chair was meant for me. Zephyr squeezed my hand once. Remember, you are their equal. Act like it. Then all three kings took their positions at the head of the council, and I was alone. I walked to the center chair with measured steps, spine straight, head high, no apologies in my body language. I sat, meeting the eyes of each council member. Marcus Ironwood sat 3 seats to the left, wearing an expression of pure contempt. Let us begin, Zephyr announced. Alpha Ironwood, you may begin. Marcus stood. Your Majesties, council members, I'll be direct. Mr. Winters comes from my territory. He is an Omega with no formal education, no political training, no understanding of governance. He is the least qualified candidate for royal consort in the history of these kingdoms. Several council members nodded. Furthermore, his sudden elevation sends a dangerous message that Omegas can aspire beyond their natural station. This will create instability. Are you finished, Alpha Ironwood? Zephyr's voice was ice. I have one question for Mr. Winters. Tell this council what makes you believe you're qualified to stand beside our kings when you couldn't even earn a position above servant in your own pack. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to me. This was it. I stood slowly, deliberately. I met Marcus's gaze without flinching. Alpha Ironwood, you're absolutely right about one thing. I have no formal political training. But let me ask you something. What does formal training teach you about governance? Theory, strategy, law, history. Exactly, theory. I've spent 7 years living the reality that theory never addresses. I know what it's like when pack leaders abuse their authority because I've lived under that abuse. I took a step forward. Now you ask what qualifies me to be consort? Experience. Real, lived experience of what life is like for the wolves you govern but never see. That's not qualification, Marcus snapped. That's victimhood. No, Alpha Ironwood. Victimhood is when you let suffering define you. What I have is perspective. My voice grew stronger. And I'll tell you what else I have. 7 years of managing a pack house with no authority and limited resources, organization, conflict resolution, resource allocation. All the skills you claim I lack, I've been practicing daily. A few council members exchanged glances. As for your concern about sending dangerous messages, what's truly dangerous is telling half the kingdom's population that they're worthless based on biology. That's not stability. That's oppression. And oppression always, eventually, leads to revolt. Are you threatening us? Another council member demanded. No, I'm stating historical fact. Their Majesties aren't trying to destroy the pack hierarchy. They're trying to save it by making it sustainable. I turned back to Marcus. You claim I couldn't earn a position above servant in Ironwood Pack. Let me be clear about what that really means. You kept me down not because I lacked ability, but because I had too much of it. Marcus's face turned red. How dare you? I dare because I'm about to be your consort, and consorts don't cower from inconvenient truths. I addressed the full council. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm telling you that I'm going to be your consort whether you accept it or not. And I'm going to use that position to fight for every wolf who's ever been told they don't matter. Silence. Then Alpha Catherine stood. Your Majesties, I would like to formally withdraw my objection. Mr. Winters has demonstrated more political acumen in 5 minutes than some members of this council have shown in years. One by one, others stood. 8 of the 12 council members showed their support. Marcus stormed from the chamber in fury. Zephyr descended from his throne and took my hand, raising it to his lips in front of the entire council. Well done, you magnificent, terrifying man. You just won a war without shedding a drop of blood. My knees were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. Did I? Yes. And now they all know you're not just our political strategy. You're a force to be reckoned with. The next 5 days passed in a whirlwind. Dress fittings, ceremony rehearsals, media interviews, security briefings. Through it all, the three kings were a constant presence. And slowly, dangerously, I found myself forgetting this was supposed to be fake. The way they looked at me, the way their hands lingered, the way their voices softened. It felt real, but it wasn't. I had to keep reminding myself. The morning of the bonding ceremony, I stood in front of a mirror, barely recognizing myself. The ceremonial outfit was deep sapphire silk with silver embroidery. I looked like something from a fairy tale. "You're breathtaking," Beck whispered. The cathedral was ancient and magnificent. I stood at the entrance on shaking legs. The music began. I took one step forward, then another. And then I saw them. All three kings stood at the altar in formal black and silver, crowns gleaming. But it was their expressions that made my breath catch. They were looking at me like I was the only person in the cathedral. It's an act, I reminded myself. They're just playing their parts. But it didn't feel like an act. Finally, I reached the altar. Zephyr took my left hand, Atlas took my right. Orion stood behind us, his hand on my shoulder. The officiant spoke. "Do you, Zephyr, Atlas, and Orion Silvermoon take Kai Winters as your mate, your consort, your partner in all things?" "We do," all three said in unison. "And do you, Kai Winters, take Zephyr, Atlas, and Orion Silvermoon as your mates, your kings, your partners in all things?" This was it, the moment of no return. I looked into their eyes, silver, gold, ice blue, and saw something that looked dangerously like real emotion. "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you bonded. Your Majesties, you may seal the bond." Zephyr stepped forward, his hand cupping my face. "Last chance to run." "Too late. I already said I do." "Then we suppose we should make this convincing." He kissed me, and the world dissolved. It was supposed to be for show. But the moment our mouths met, something ignited. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the cathedral erupted in applause. But I was too lost in Zephyr's silver eyes to hear it. Atlas kissed me next, fierce and possessive. Then Orion, gentle but consuming. By the time they finished, I could barely stand. "Well," Zephyr said, his voice rough, "that was convincing." 3 months passed. 3 months of living in a beautiful lie that felt more real every single day. I'd thrown myself into my role as consort, working alongside them to draft Omega protection legislation, visiting PACs, documenting stories. But every day, the line between pretend and real grew thinner. We still maintained separate bedrooms, that was part of the contract. But the way they looked at me when we were alone, the way their hands lingered, the way their voices softened when they said my name, I'd broken the cardinal rule of our arrangement. I'd fallen in love with them. Completely, irrevocably, devastatingly in love. Present day, I sat in the royal study, reviewing the final draft of the Omega Protection Act. It was everything we'd fought for. The Alpha Council vote was scheduled for tomorrow. So why did I feel like I was about to lose everything? "You're thinking too loud," Zephyr's voice came from the doorway. "Just reviewing the final draft. We're going to pass this tomorrow. Everything we've worked for is about to become reality." "I know." "Then why do you look so sad?" "Because once the legislation passes, the arrangement is complete. Because you got what you needed from me, and I'm terrified you'll realize you don't need me anymore." But I couldn't say that. "I'm just tired." Zephyr studied me. "You've been distant for weeks. What happened?" "Nothing." "You're lying." He leaned forward. "Talk to me, Kai. Please." The please broke something in me. I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend this is just a political arrangement when every time you touch me, I forget how to breathe. I can't smile for cameras and play the devoted consort when I'm actually... I choked on the words. "When you're actually what?" "In love with you. With all three of you. Completely, stupidly, hopelessly in love. And I know that's not part of our deal. But I can't help it. And I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." Silence. I couldn't look at them. "Say something, please. You're not an idiot. You're brave. Do you know how long we've been waiting for you to say that?" My head snapped up. "What?" Zephyr stood and moved around the desk. Atlas and Orion appeared from where they'd been listening. All three surrounded me. "We fell in love with you the night of the Alpha Council meeting," Zephyr said. when you stood in that chamber and took apart every argument with nothing but logic and courage. We fell in love with you when you walked down that aisle, looking at us like we were the only people in the world, Atlas added. We fell in love with you every single day since, Orion finished. Tears streamed down my face. Then why didn't you say anything? Because we were terrified. We told you we didn't believe in true mates. We told you this was just business, and then you proved us wrong about everything. But we thought you were honoring our agreement, Atlas said, that you wanted the 5 years and then freedom. Trap me? I laughed through tears. You're the ones who set me free. How could I not fall in love with you? Then we're all idiots, Orion said, because we've been trying to honor a contract when all we wanted was to tear it up and make this real. Then tear it up. Make this real. I don't want 5 years. I want forever. I want you. All of you. Really? Are you sure? Because once we claim you as our true mate, there's no going back. The bond is permanent. I've never been more sure of anything. Then you need to know something first. We didn't choose you just for political reasons. We lied. What do you mean? The moment we read your text message, that bold, ridiculous proposition, something in us recognized something in you. Our wolves knew. You're our true mate, Kai. You always were. We just convinced ourselves it was political strategy because we were too scared to believe in fate. My breath caught. You knew. This whole time. We suspected. But we didn't want to force a bond you didn't want. We needed you to choose us freely. I do want to. I choose you every day. I choose you. Then let us do this properly. All 3 kings dropped to one knee. My heart stopped. Kai Winters, our consort, our partner, our true mate, will you accept our bond? Not as a contract, not as an arrangement, but as a real, permanent, forever bond? Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. All 3 stood and kissed me. Not careful, controlled kisses, but something wild and desperate and real. When we finally broke apart, Zephyr pressed his forehead to mine. We're going to mark you, right here, right now. And tomorrow, after we pass that legislation, we're going to announce to the kingdoms that this bond is real. No more pretending. Promise me something first. Anything. Promise me you'll never stop fighting for Omegas. We promise, forever. You and us against the world. Zephyr's eyes flashed silver. Mine. Ours, Atlas corrected, golden eyes burning. Yours, I agreed. Always yours. They kissed my neck, right where the mating marks would go, and I knew I could feel through the incomplete pull between us that this was it, the moment that would bind us together forever. Zephyr bit first. His claiming bite landed on my left shoulder where neck met collarbone. The sharp pain was immediate and intense, his alpha canine sinking deep into my flesh, breaking skin, marking me as his. I gasped at the sensation, my fingers digging into Atlas's arm for support. But the pain was nothing compared to what came next. The bond snapped into place like a golden thread pulled taut between us, and suddenly I could feel him, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Every part of Zephyr flooded into me through that connection. I felt his relief, overwhelming, crushing relief that I'd chosen them, that I was finally, truly theirs. I felt his joy, pure and bright and unfiltered. I felt his fierce protectiveness, the absolute conviction that he would burn the world down before he let anyone hurt me. And beneath all of that, running like an underground river, I felt his love, deep and steady and unshakable. The kind of love that had been there all along, hidden beneath layers of duty and responsibility and fear. Through our bond, I felt him recognize me, not as a political tool, not as a symbol, but as his mate, his true mate. The one his wolf had been searching for without even knowing it. Zephyr pulled back slowly, licking the bite to seal it, and I shuddered at the sensation. The wound burned and tingled as it began to heal, leaving behind a permanent mark, a silver crescent moon that would mark me as his for the rest of my life. Mine, he breathed against my skin, and through the bond I felt the truth of it resonate in my bones. Yours, I agreed, my voice shaking. But we weren't done. Not yet. Atlas moved next, and I could feel his impatience through Zephyr's bond, could feel how desperate he was to claim me, to make this real, to ensure I could never leave. His claiming bite hit my right shoulder, mirror image to Zephyr's mark. His canines were slightly longer, and the bite was harder, more possessive, driven by his alpha need to protect what was his. The pain was sharper this time, but again, it was nothing compared to the bond. The second golden thread snapped into place, and Atlas flooded into my consciousness. Where Zephyr's bond had been steady and calm, Atlas's was fire and intensity. I felt his passion, the burning, consuming need to keep me safe, to fight for me, to destroy anyone who threatened me. I felt his desperation, the fear that he'd almost lost me before he ever really had me, that I might have walked away, that this might never have happened. And I felt his love. God's. His love was overwhelming, fierce and protective and all-consuming. The kind of love that would go to war for you. The kind of love that would tear apart kingdoms if it meant keeping you safe. Through Atlas's bond, I felt him surrender to the mate bond completely. Felt his wolf rise up and claim me as pack, as mate, as everything. He pulled back, licking the wound closed, and I swayed on my feet. Two bonds humming in my chest, two sets of emotions tangling with my own, two marks burning on my shoulders. Mine, Atlas growled, and the possessiveness in his voice made me shiver. Ours, Zephyr corrected gently, and I felt his amusement through our bond. Yours, I whispered, tears streaming down my face, both of yours. Finally, Orion stepped forward, the calm one, the gentle one, but I could see in his ice-blue eyes that he was just as desperate, just as needy, just as determined to make me his. His claiming bite landed at the base of my throat, the most vulnerable spot, the place where my scent gland pulsed with my heartbeat, where my life force flowed closest to the surface. The traditional Omega mating mark. Orion bit down carefully, precisely, with just enough force to break skin without causing unnecessary pain. And even in this moment of raw alpha need, he was tender with me. The third bond snapped into place, and I nearly collapsed from the overwhelming sensation. Orion's bond was different from the others. Where Zephyr was steady and Atlas was fire, Orion was water deep and calm and eternal. I felt his gentleness, his emotional depth, his ability to see straight through to my soul. I felt his wonder at finally finding me. His gratitude that I existed, that I'd stumbled into their lives through that ridiculous text message, that fate had brought us together. And I felt his love, quiet and patient and all-encompassing, the kind of love that knew every dark corner of your soul and cherished them all, the kind of love that would wait forever if that's what you needed. Through Orion's bond, I felt him accept me completely, flaws and all, trauma and all, broken pieces and all, felt him wrap around my heart like a warm embrace and promise to never let go. When he pulled back, licking the wound closed, I stood there trembling with three bonds humming in my chest, three distinct sets of emotions tangling with my own, three marks burning on my skin. The bonds wove together, braiding into something stronger than any individual thread. I could feel all three of them now. Zephyr's steady presence to my left, Atlas's fierce protection to my right, Orion's gentle strength at my center. And through all three bonds, I felt their overwhelming love for me, felt them recognize me as their true mate, felt them surrender to the bond completely. I stood surrounded by them, marked and claimed and utterly, completely theirs, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt whole. The next day, the Alpha Council voted. 10 votes yes, 2 votes no. The Omega Protection Act had passed. Celebrations broke out across the kingdoms. 1 year later, I stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the city I'd come to love. Behind me, I heard 3 sets of footsteps. "There you are," Zephyr said, wrapping his arms around my waist. "We've been looking everywhere for you. Just thinking about how a year ago I was scrubbing floors in a basement, and now I'm a consort who just gave the keynote speech at the United Pack Summit." "And you were magnificent," Atlas said, pressing a kiss to my marked neck, making me shiver. "Though we have to say," Orion added, "we prefer you like this. Relaxed. Happy. Ours." "Always yours," I agreed, turning in their arms. "Did you hear? Ironwood Pack just appointed their first Omega to the Leadership Council." "We did," Zephyr said. "Apparently, he's brilliant." I laughed. "It's Beck, isn't it?" It is. Your best friend is changing the pact that tried to break you both. There's poetry in that, I said softly. And there was. Beck had called me last week, ecstatic about his new position. They're actually listening to me, Kai. Actually implementing my suggestions. The pack is changing. Because you changed the kingdoms first, I'd told him. You showed them it was possible. Now, standing on this balcony with my 3 mates, I thought about everything that had changed in 1 year. The Omega Protection Act had transformed life for Omegas across all 3 kingdoms: fair wages, safe working conditions, the right to refuse unwanted bonds, legal protections against abuse. Packs that had been prisons were becoming homes. Omegas who'd been told they were worthless were finding their voices. And I got to be part of that, not just as a symbol, but as an active participant. I'd spent the past year traveling to every pack in the kingdoms, speaking with Omegas, documenting their stories, advocating for change. The work was hard, exhausting, sometimes heartbreaking. But it mattered. I mattered. What are you thinking about? Orion asked, reading my expression the way he always could through our bond. About how far we've come. About how much has changed. You changed it, Zephyr said. You stood in that council chamber and made them see Omegas differently. Everything that came after that was you. That was us, I corrected. All of us. Together. Atlas pulled me closer. Speaking of together, we have something for you. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a deed. What is this? The community center, Orion explained. In the capital, a safe place for Omegas who need help. Job training, counseling, legal assistance, temporary housing. We're calling it the Winters Center. My eyes burned with tears. You named it after me? You're the one who suggested it, Zephyr said. 6 months ago, you said we needed more than just laws. We needed infrastructure, support systems. This is the first of many. I couldn't speak, could only bury my face in Zephyr's chest while Atlas and Orion held me from behind. We're so proud of you, Atlas murmured, so incredibly proud. Later that evening, we had dinner with Beck and Helena in the private dining room. Beck was glowing, full of stories about the changes in Ironwood Pack. Marcus retired last month, he said, stepped down as pack leader. Drake left for the Eastern Packs. And the new leadership is actually progressive. They're implementing Omega rights ahead of schedule. That's your doing, I said. You made that happen. We made that happen, Beck corrected. You showed me it was possible. I just followed your example. Helena raised her glass. To the men who changed the kingdoms, may your bond be long and your legacy eternal. We all drank, and as I looked around the table at Beck, who'd stood by me through everything, at Helena, who'd become like family, at my 3 mates, who'd given me everything, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, alone with Zephyr, Atlas, and Orion in our shared quarters, I stood at the window looking out at the city lights. What are you thinking? Zephyr asked, coming up behind me. About a text message. About how I wrote it as a joke. A fantasy. A moment of escape from a life that felt hopeless. And instead it gave you everything, Atlas said, joining us. More than everything, I said, turning to face them. It gave me a voice, a purpose, a love that defied every rule and expectation, and a future that's finally, gloriously, mine. Orion's arms wrapped around me from behind. Ours. Ours, I agreed. Through the bonds, I felt their love washing over me. Zephyr's steady, strategic devotion. Atlas's fierce, protective passion. Orion's gentle, all-consuming warmth. And I sent my own love back through those golden threads, letting them feel how completely, utterly, permanently I was theirs. Forever? Zephyr whispered. Forever, I promised. Because that accidental text message hadn't just changed my life, it had given me everything I'd ever dreamed of, and so much more. A voice when I'd been silenced, power when I'd been powerless, purpose when I'd felt worthless, and most importantly, love. Real, true, unconditional love from 3 alphas who saw me, truly saw me, and chose me anyway. Not because of what I could do for them, not because of political strategy or Omega rights legislation, but because I was theirs and they were mine, and some bonds were written in the stars long before we ever found each other. I'd spent 7 years being told I was nothing, that I'd never be anything more than a servant, that my place was on my knees scrubbing floors. But I'd learned something in the past year, something important. Your place isn't where others put you. Your place is where you claim it. And I'd claimed mine, standing beside three kings, fighting for those who had no voice, changing kingdoms that had seemed unchangeable. All because of one mistake, one mortifying, earth-shattering, beautiful mistake. The best mistake I ever made. Thank you for joining Kai's journey from basement servant to royal consort. If this story of one accidental text message changing everything touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment telling us which king was your favorite, Zephyr's strategic mind, Atlas's fierce protection, or Orion's calm strength. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best things in life start with the biggest mistakes.